Slight chance of evening showers and thunderstorms, 88 for tonight. Tomorrow, mostly sunny. Slight chance of showers and thunderstorms, high 109. Sunday, a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms, high 107. I'm staff meteorologist John Weatherby. Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Right now it's 104 degrees and the Dow's down 137 points at 16,946. S&P down 10 at 1978. NASDAQ down 26 at 4446. Reporting for Money Radio, I'm Ken Morgan.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Roth, and you are listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We're a weekly show found right here on Money Radio, KFNN, 1510 AM and 99.3 FM. And the premise of our show is really talking about how to live a healthier, happier life and really finding the resources out there to do so. And I am privileged to have today some iconic radio people in my studio. And one thing I wanted to share with our audience is, aging and the challenges that we deal with aging is something that we all have to deal with. And whether you're in home care, whether you're in the radio business, whether you're in the construction business, or a professional out there in the community. And it's our job at Health Futures Taking Stock in You to help you navigate and find the resources to help you age successfully. So without further ado, I want to talk about some of the people I have in the audience because to the audience, I've got over 80 years of radio experience right here in this room. To my left is the owner of KFNN Radio, Money Radio, Ron Cohen.
Good morning, Bob. Thanks for having me here.
Well, it's good to have you here.
My own station.
It's good to be here in your own station. And then just to the left of him is Bill Strauss from Strauss's Place.
And if anyone that I know ever thought that I would be on a show about living healthier,
they don't know you.
It'd be the biggest surprise of their life.
And then just to the left of him is the morning mayor, Dave Pratt.
I love the Springsteen.
I love it.
I love that. Thank you.
You know what? Our rock and rollers, they get old, but they don't fade away.
And, I have to say, it's kind of strange being on a show about money when my wife handles it in our house. I haven't seen my check in years. All I do is sign the back. But I'll try to hang in here with you guys.
Well, I appreciate it. And, we're talking about aging adults, and a lot of people don't realize this, but by 2050, there are going to be more people in this country 65 and older than there are going to be 18 and younger. Another fact that people don't realize, and I've shared this here on the show, that for every, and this is a statistic that came from AARP, for every available caregiver, which they qualify between the ages of 45 and 64, for somebody that's 80 years or older. Today, there are about 7 available caregivers for every person 80 and older. By 2030, there'll be less than 4, and by 2050, there'll be less than 3. So it's daunting. It is absolutely daunting. And, one of the things I do share with people, that there are 4 kinds of people in this world. There are those that have been caregivers. There are those that are currently caregivers. There are those that will be caregivers, and those that will be and need caregivers.
Yeah, some people call us the sandwich generation because we're taking care of, the seniors in our family, but also taking care of our kids at the same time.
Well, exactly.
So we're caregivers in both directions.
Exactly. And you know what? I want to just open this up to my panel here of radio experts, if you would, because you guys like I said, we're not impervious to it. I mean, it's happening to all of us. And, Dave, you would talk to me about your dad and your mom. And, Bill, I've had the pleasure of meeting your dad and assisting you. And Ron, we were just talking about your family. And you've got an 80-year-old mom that's living home alone in Las Vegas.
That's right. And she's probably the same way I would be at that age. She wants to continue living alone and living independently. And as she's gotten older, that brings with it many challenges.
And, one of the things I want to talk to our audience today and really share with my guests here is the conversation. Because that's probably the hardest thing to do, is to sit down with somebody you love and say to them, hey, you know what, Dad or Mom, I love you and I care about you, but I don't think you can stay home alone anymore. And I got to tell you, not enough children, I refer to them as adult children, have that kind of conversation with their parents. I just had the pleasure of last week sitting down with somebody who brought their kids in from all across the country to have that conversation. We spent an hour there. And it started off with assisted living. And they wanted Mom to consider assisted living. And I looked at their mother, and I looked straight in her eyes, and I said, do you want to go into assisted living? And she shook her head, no. And I said, what do you want to do? She goes, I want to stay right here. And that's the great thing about Cypress Home Care Solutions and other home care providers out there, because we can enable people to stay at home. Because truly, if someone wants to stay home, our goal is to put a blanket of protection around them, utilizing care services, assisted living devices. Some of it's technology today, and we're going to have more and more technology to enable them to stay at home.
I would even go further. I would say that the discussion of bringing someone into the home to help is often fought.
Oh, of course it is.
Is there any one of us that wouldn't fight the idea of someone coming into our home to take care of us, going into an assisted living thing, going into the hospital, going to hospice? Every one of those things I've been through with family members, and every one of them is painful, difficult, emotional, gut-wrenching, and I don't think there's anything unusual. There's a lot unusual about our family, but not that. I think that's what takes place in any and every family.
And the conversation centers around the independence. And for us, I mean, we all drove here, with the exception of Dave. He's got his son here, Sammy, who just got his license.
I know where you're going, Bob, and that's where it started with us. It's taking away the keys.
Yes.
That was the first step, and that was the first tough conversation. Mom, give me the keys. You can't drive anymore. And I remember her response, it's my life. It's not just your life, because you're on the road and there's other people driving. That was a really tough conversation. You know what, Bob? I think that may have been a tougher conversation than when we finally got to her house and how she was going to live in her senior years, because that was the first conversation about taking away a piece of her independence.
Taking those keys. And I'll bet you she did not like you very much.
No.
She probably stopped talking.
She's never liked me much. But that was a really tough conversation. And then after that, it turned into some of the financials, looking at bank accounts, making sure she was being responsible with her money, getting life insurance, getting long-term health care. Once you start digging into that with your parent, what you said, Bill, about nobody wants that invaded feeling of, hey, you're either coming into my house, you're coming into my life, you're looking at my private papers, you're looking at my financials. But it has to happen, and any responsible kid has to do that for their parent.
I think it also makes a difference if I live alone. I think the rest of you all live with family members. When you live alone, there's a different mindset, and especially as you get older. I never, ever in my life worried about being alone, living alone, anything. These days, I have thoughts of, what if I had a friend who fell, hit his head, and died at home. Healthy guy. What if I fell and was incapacitated? It's...
I have that same thoughts and have discussed that with my mother. She lives alone. She's 80 years old. And, I can't even get to the point where I get her to wear one of those type of devices. I actually have a couple of panic buttons throughout her small condo, but she doesn't have a big support system there. And so beyond getting her some emergency help when she needs it, there's also the other dialogue of why don't you move somewhere where there's a support system? And again, it's that same struggle to get her to look at what's next for her.
My dad was a World War II veteran. He was one of that generation. The day he called me and said, would you mind calling me every morning? And he confessed he worried about dying overnight and nobody knowing about it. So I remember telling him, Dad, I talked to my mom, I think, every day of my life. I said, it'll be a pleasure. I'll call you, say hello. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a big thing. He was very apologetic about it.
Right.
But even that intrusion into his independence was a big deal to him. It took a lot for him to ask that.
It is a big deal. Well, we're going to have to take a break for our sponsors, but I do want to pick up on this independence piece. And I also want to talk about the conversation, because each one of us has had that conversation, and it's so important for our listening audience to understand that. You need to sit down with your audience, with your family members and the loved ones and have that conversations. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. We'll be right back.
Time to turn up the air conditioner and turn up the volume on Money Radio. And let's make some money. It's too hot to do anything else.
Do you dread having your annual screening mammogram? For a totally different experience, give Arizona BreastNet a call. Our all-female staff provides you with years of expertise and immediate results in a clean, state-of-the-art, spa-like facility that respects your mind, your body, and your time. If, on the other hand, you have a new breast lump or breast-related finding, call Arizona BreastNet today for an immediate appointment and consultation with a doctor who will give you your results at the time of your visit. At Arizona BreastNet, you will never have to wonder, worry, or wait. Get your results today and call 480-314-7600. That's 480-314-7600 for an immediate appointment, or you can visit us online at breastnet.net for more information.
Investors who want to maximize their opportunities and minimize their losses, turn to philsgang.com. Beginner or seasoned investor, philsgang.com is where you learn to invest using professional-level skills and strategies, regardless of your experience and investing goals.
Been a member for about a year, and this year I'm up around 60% on my portfolio.
I'm a new gang member. I'm up like 15% in 3 months. Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving my confidence back in trading.
For only $49.95 a month, you will have access to all Phil's Gang programs, special alerts to the daily investing class, and all material is archived. So why don't you take care of your financial opportunities with philsgang.com? Operators are standing by. Simply call 877-600-4264. 877-600-4264. That's 877-600-4264. Or go to philsgang.com. That's philsgang.com today.
Forecasters say Arizona will be hit with major dust storms this year. Will you know what to do? Dust storms develop quickly and reduce visibility in just seconds. Any dust storm, large or small, can be dangerous for drivers. Will you know what to do? When a dust storm hits, pull aside, stay alive. Pull completely off the roadway, turn off your lights, wait for the storm to pass. Learn more at pullasidestayalive.org.
Sponsored by ADOT in partnership with the Arizona Broadcasters Association and this station.
With your pick two from Paradise Bakery and Cafe, you can try the new barbecue chicken flatbread sandwiches and have your strawberry poppy seed salad too. Visit Paradise Bakery and Cafe today.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. This is Health Futures, and you're listening to Bob Roth with his outstanding group of guests here from the radio industry. If you're just tuning in and you've missed this segment, please go out to our website, cypresshomecare.com, push on the radio button up on the top left, And you can listen to all 4 of the segments from today's show, and you can listen to about 25 others that we have played since the beginning of the year. So when we just left off, and for those that are listening right now and you're just tuning in, I've got Ron Cohen, the owner of KFNN Radio, with me. I've got Bill Strauss, formerly with Strauss's Place, and I've got Dave Pratt with the Double Wide, the Morning Mirror, with me today.
Just because I chose not to run for governor, but thank you.
We could have a whole show about the governor's race.
But he threatens every year.
So we left off when we were talking about independence, and we were talking about the conversation. And each one of us has dealt with this in ways differently, but they are very similar. And they happened around our parents. And that conversation is so, so important. And during our break, we were talking to Ron Cohen about his mom and having that conversation with her. And I know she's experienced care at home, but again, it's that independence that she is fearful of losing.
Yeah, it's in her. She knows she's aware enough to know that at some point the party's going to be over, but she doesn't want it to end. And who wouldn't?
Absolutely.
So she also, I think, and this is probably the biggest challenge that anyone has, she's really just afraid of what change looks like for her. In our minds as offspring, we see all the benefits of that change, and she can't see it. And interesting enough, she has an older sister who's now 86, who actually embraced the change and is on like kind of her third leg of that journey, if you will. But she was the first one to want to sell her house, move into an independent living center. She was involved and enrolled in the process, went through the investigation of the different facilities, acclimated wonderfully, became very social, and my mother saw all those examples, and we said, "Hey, Mom, this is, your sister did that. This is what you can do." And, it's just, she just didn't want any part of it, which is unfortunate because we look at it as, my siblings and myself look at it and say, she'd be so much happier. But Bob, how do you get them to realize that? How do you get them to make that change?
You're doing all the right things. I mean, especially when she has a sibling that is going through that. But I will tell you, the vast majority are representative of your mom. I mean, aging is not easy. And you know what? A lot of people, you can even embrace aging, or you can fight it, and you can say, I'm cranky, I'm old, and I'm miserable. And a lot of our aging adults are recluse. They stay in their apartments, their condos, or in their homes, and they never really go out.
Right.
And it's scary. It really is scary, the proposition that is going on out there. And I wish more people like your aunt would embrace it. But I really think as children, you're doing all the right things, and you're looking for solutions for her. And during the break, you were talking about her having a brother in Palm Springs, and him trying to help come up with a solution.
Yeah, it makes so much sense, and we all know the clock's ticking, and that's where the stress is amongst my brothers and myself. Is just, we know this isn't going to last long, and because she's alone and doesn't have a support system, I mean, she even refuses, as I mentioned, to wear some type of an emergency device in case she falls or something like that. And she has fallen before, but knock on wood, she's, her health is good and she's still hardy, and yet at the same time, she knows the clock is ticking as well.
And you know what? That goes back to the independence. I can't begin to tell you how many of my clients do not want to wear those devices. The kids want them to wear it, but they don't want to wear it because they don't want to be viewed as old. Being a senior is taboo. Bill, I'll pick on you for a second. I mean, you just celebrated his 65th birthday. Do you feel like you're a senior?
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Because you don't look it.
No, I plan to reap all of the benefits of seniorhood. What's unbelievable is you lose so many people. I don't care who's listening. You have lost more people than you can believe at your age. And it accelerates so much as you get older. I think that's a factor. I think that older people, if they have friends who have had positive experiences making a change to an assisted living, or bringing someone into the home.
Right.
And I know, Bob, when we were doing interviews for Cypress, I got to meet some of your clients, some of the decision makers. Unbelievable stories of how people's lives actually improved once they started getting care, once they stopped the denial, of aging and the effects of aging. I think if Ron's mom heard some of those stories, it would, if nothing else, it would add a filter to her predisposition against assisted living. Well, if Irma liked it that much, God, I've known Irma for 30 years. Those kinds of anecdotal experiences play a huge role.
Oh, it does. And the work that we do, just so our audience understands, is we assist people to age in place. We're not nurses. We're almost surrogate sons and daughters that are in that home helping prepare meals, helping clean up after meals, do some light housekeeping, engage in companionship and conversation, because a lot of people are like Ron's mom that are sitting home alone. They want to interact with people.
Yeah.
I had a physician here in my practice, I had a physician here on our show who's a geriatric physician, and he says that babies get touched over 100 times a day. Our aging adults, they're lucky if they get touched by another individual 4, 5, 6 times a week. And we as human beings crave that touch. We crave to be hugged by somebody, hold hands. Doesn't happen for so many. And I would imagine your mom's the same way.
She comes right out and says that. And she's not seen by enough family, but when we do, she just, whether it's her grandkids or myself even, she just says, I just want a hug.
Exactly.
I just want a hug.
And that's all they need sometimes, is just a hug. And we talked about the conversation. It starts with the conversation. We need to sit down, and we need our audience to really take inventory of your loved ones and sit down with them and talk to them. Talk to them about how do we get you to age successfully. And if you want to age in place, we can. We can do that because there are companies like Cypress Home Care Solutions that can do that for you.
And Bob, you must love that. When people address these issues earlier, it helps you help them plan for later. So if they come to you earlier, you can get everything in line with them, including power of attorney and banking and money issues.
Absolutely.
And you can escort them in the process with their parents. That's the key, is getting this early rather than when they fall into ill health or other challenges.
Dave, you're so right. And we've talked about it here on our show, and that's referred to in the industry as advanced directives, and basically having a plan, sitting down and understanding what your loved one's wishes are. And those are, medical power of attorney. There's something here called durable mental power of attorney, especially with the incidences of dementia and Alzheimer's just continue to grow. We have 5.4 million Americans that are afflicted with this disease, and over 65 million caregivers that are caring for a loved one, and many of them with this disease. So it's really important to have that discussion.
And Bob, trying to get this in place after the fact. So my mom was sick, and I can tell you more about that, but then trying to get the power of attorney after she's already been sick and getting her approval, it's a mess. And try to deal with banks without a power of attorney. Forget it. I don't care if you're the son, daughter, doesn't matter. Banks have to have all the papers in place, and it takes forever.
And like you said, we got to do it more on the earlier side. The music's on, so we are getting ready to take a break. We're done our second segment, guys. So we got 2 more segments coming up. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We'll be right back.
Now, a break for an update on the latest news from around the world on NBC from Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
NBC News Radio, I'm Pete Williams. Israel has rejected a ceasefire proposed by Secretary of State John Kerry. NBC's Martin Fletcher in Tel Aviv says Israel is feeling international pressure on this 18th day of fighting.
Israel does feel there's a time limit on its operation, that although I don't think there's a lot of attention paid to what is said outside, nevertheless the Israelis know that growing public international pressure, in particular from the United States of America, in the end will bring an end to this operation.
A Sunwing Airlines plane bound from Toronto to Panama turned back today after a passenger started yelling threats to the plane over American airspace. 2 U.S. fighter jets escorted it part of the way home. When it landed at Toronto's Pearson Airport, passengers were further startled as tactical police rushed on, weapons deployed.
Heads down, hands up! Heads down, hands up! Heads down, hands up! Heads down, hands up! Heads down, hands up!
U.S. officials say the passenger had mental problems. This is NBC News Radio.
Every story is a journey. And this journey plays out all summer long during the Emirates Airline U.S. Open Series. Don't miss your chance to see some of the top players in the world battle it out to see who's best. 5 weeks, 8 tournaments, 8 cities. Which champion will prevail? Which new hero will emerge? This is your chance to find out. For complete TV listings, go to EmirateSUSOpenSeries.com.
Little Jack Horner sat in a corner of his ransacked apartment, wondering what kind of nitwit steals a futon. Luckily, the Geico Insurance Agency had helped him with renter's insurance, and he got full replacement. Unfortunately, little Jack Horner had to have his stomach pumped when he ate a 6-month-old Christmas pie. Visit Geico.com to see how affordable renter's insurance can be.
Policies issued by American General Life Insurance Company, Houston, Texas. Not available in all states. For details, visit AIGDirect.com.
On March 3rd last year, Henry W. faced his own death with incredible courage. He wasn't in an accident. He wasn't ill. He wasn't in any danger. But he faced this reality head on. If he died, his wife and children wouldn't be able to pay the mortgage, make the car payments, or keep up the life they'd had. His family would lose everything. So he picked up the phone and called AIG Direct. He found out that through AIG Direct, he could get a $250,000 life insurance policy for less than $14 a month. Now, he knows that he's helped make his family's future secure, no matter what happens to him.
Protecting your family with coverage through AIG Direct is fast, easy, and incredibly affordable. Call AIG Direct right now for a free no-obligation quote. The call takes less than 5 minutes, and you can save up to 70%. Call now, 1-800-530-5857. That's 1-800-530-5857. 1-800-530-5857.
For over 25 years, we've been giving you the means to make your money grow. It's no coincidence we call ourselves Money Radio.
Hi, everybody. Ray Lucia here, inviting you to join me for the one talk show in America designed to help you make better money moves. Get strategies and solutions to help you manage your most important financial decisions and the latest from Washington and Wall Street. It's the Ray Lucia Show, weekday mornings at 8 on Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Brought to you by Pipeline Oil and Gas. Get in on the modern-day oil boom. Schedule an appointment today, 602-620-8272.
Hello, I'm Nancy Fleming, certified financial planner and president of Fleming Financial Services. Choosing a financial partner is about far more than finances. It's about the caring service we offer our clients. Retirement planning is about finding what's important to you. We provide sound recommendations designed for your unique needs and concerns. We want to eliminate the guesswork and offer predictability and peace of mind. I believe in having a plan for retirement and remaining by your side throughout to be sure the plan is working and making any necessary changes as your life changes. Let's make retirement planning and your transition into and through retirement as smooth as possible. Call me today to plan your successful retirement, 480-632-8770. With over 20 years of experience, I will help you piece together the retirement puzzle. 480-632-8770 or visit us at FlemingFinancialServices.com.
Remodeling your kitchen or bathroom? Make the smart move. Premier Kitchen and Bath. One company, one contract, stress-free. Visit remodelingradio.com.
Liking this decision? This is the Dow Jones Money Report. I'm Mike Weinstein. Facebook is off the hook for allegations that it illegally disclosed data about ad revenue before its IPO 2 years ago. The SEC decided that the social network didn't do anything wrong and has dropped its probe. Shares of Facebook are up a fraction. Shares of Visa, meantime, are helping to drag down the blue chips today. Despite a rise in earnings, the credit card giant and Dow component lowered its forecast for annual revenue growth, and shares of Visa are down nearly 4%. Part of the market that is down, the Dow especially lower by 140 points at 16,942. The Nasdaq has shed 25, and the S&P 500 off its record high, down 10. A new study points out the vice capitals of the United States. While it should come as no surprise that Las Vegas is the champion spot for gambling, slightly less shocking is that Denver is top for marijuana use. Pittsburgh is number one for alcohol consumption. Des Moines, Iowa is the tops for cocaine, while Columbus, Ohio leads for heroin. I'm Mike Weinstein with the Dow Jones Money Report.
Is driving in traffic aggravating your back or knee pain? Better drive over and pick up some Salon Pause Jet Spray and get powerful relief. Salon Pause Jet Spray is a fast-acting pain reliever for muscle and joint pain. It has 2 powerful active ingredients that spray on clear, dry fast, and provide hours and hours of relief. Look for the blue can with the blue cap. Salon Pause, powerful relief when and where you need it. Use as directed.
TrueCar.com is changing car buying forever. Yes, every day, TrueCar users receive negotiation-free guaranteed savings. Some features not available in all states. TrueCar users save an average $3,078 off MSRP. When you're ready to buy a car, go to TrueCar.com and find out what others paid for the car you're looking for. Then register at TrueCar to see upfront pricing information and lock in your savings. Third step is simple. Just print out your TrueCar savings certificate and take it to the TrueCar certified dealer. Visit TrueCar.com today. That's TrueCar.com.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. My name is Bob Roth, and you're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. And if you're just tuning in, we've got some radio rock stars. One in particular, the morning mayor, Dave Pratt, is with us and in the house. We've got Bill Strauss in the house, and we've got the owner of Money Radio, KFNN Radio, Ron Cohen. We were talking just before we took the break, and Dave, you eloquently brought it up, and that is talking about getting your wishes down in writing. And we've talked about that on our show. We're talking about what we refer to as advance directives. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's so important to have that conversation as well. Not just care, but that conversation with your loved ones about what their wishes are while they're cognizant, while they have the mental capacity to make those wishes known.
You know, Bob, my mom and I have always been very, very close. And I always felt like my responsibility was just to love her day in and day out. Visit her, make sure she's okay, take her out for a good time, make sure she gets plenty of time with the grandkids. I thought I was being a good son. But what I did is I missed my responsibility. And I started addressing these issues way too late. In fact, I've known you for a lot of years, Bob. I should have had that conversation about home care with my mom before more problems happened. She ended up falling in her home. And firefighters had to come, paramedics had to come, take her to the hospital. She had to be sedated. At that point, we were way behind the curve as far as getting power of attorney. People don't care if you're the son or not. They're like, you don't have the power of attorney? Well, I can't. She's sedated. To go through that process and then have to make difficult decisions at difficult times when emotions are flying, it's really rough. So preparing ahead is very, very important. If I would have had a talk with her about either home care or assisted living or what she wanted before she was sedated, it would have been a completely different picture. In fact, if I would have had that talk with her beforehand, she would have been able to use your services and had home care. Because I didn't fulfill my responsibility and we caught it too late, she has to be in 24/7 assisted living. She has to have somebody there 24/7. And I don't look at that as her fault for falling, although we had a walker for her and we told her to be diligent in her own care. I look at that as my lack of responsibility because I didn't take care of the issue ahead of time.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because I think there's so many of us out there that are listening to that and saying, wow, because we need to take charge of that. You know, we don't get, and Dr. Bailey last week talked about it, we don't get an owner's manual when we're born as babies. And we don't have that owner's manual to refer to as we're aging adults. But we know what the future is in store for us. And we know we're all aging. But it's so important to have that conversation and get those wishes memorialized.
Yeah, sometimes we feel like, you know, just loving and being there for our parents is enough, but it's not. We have a responsibility, and we need to take care of that for the long-term care. So.
We do. And, you know, with the incidences of dementias and Alzheimer's growing, one person is diagnosed with Alzheimer's every 67 seconds. Every 67 seconds. We got 5.4 million people that have this disease, and it's just growing. It is quote-unquote, an epidemic or pandemic, that we have to deal with this. We have great resources here in our state, and we got great caregiving companies like Cypress to help people. But I share that with you because if you don't have this conversation with your loved one and they get that diagnosis, you're done. You can't memorialize their wishes because they are not of right mind to be able to sign any documents.
Absolutely. When we are getting into this decision-making process, I've been married for 26 years.
Congratulations.
And
25 year.
25, okay. I've been married for 26 years. When I started to enter this conversation with my mom, she asked me if I loved Paula, and I said yes. And she said, do you think someday you'll get married? So she wasn't even on the same playing field.
Right. Wow.
You can't have a conversation at that point.
No. I want to ask, because I really don't know, if you're past the point where they're of sound mind, what does a family do?
Right.
You know, that's a great question. I mean, I would sit down with your professionals and figure out how do we memorialize their plans, because that is why you need to do it now. And I got to tell you, it's not just aging adults. I'm going to tell you, and I shared this with Ron, my daughter just moved to Des Moines, Iowa. She's 22 years old.
Great town.
Thank you. And I've got another daughter who's away at summer camp, and she's 19, I'm sorry. She'll kill me for not having her age right. But the fact of the matter is, if something were to happen to them, God forbid they were getting a car accident 1,000,000 times, if it happens, they're in the hospital. If my daughter Sammy Jo's in the hospital in Des Moines, I cannot get any information from her. And we took the time to sit down and have those medical powers of attorney drawn up so I could get that information, God forbid something like that were to happen. So our listening audience, hear me out. Sit down and make sure you memorialize these things.
I want to tell you, I sent a living will and advance directives to my children, but I prepped them first and said, "Don't be alarmed. I haven't seen a doctor in it. I just want to do this." This was after my father died. Just want to do. My kids handled it much better than I ever would have guessed, and I'm guessing that's probably true of a lot of families. My kids, they were actually thankful that I'd thought about it and that I did it. And we had never had the conversation, but I wanted to just take care of it, have it done.
And it's nice because you got to memorialize your wishes.
Right.
So now you've got it in writing. God forbid 1,000,000 times over, if something were to happen to you, your son, your children, your grandchildren will know this is what Dad wanted.
What if I change my mind?
You can change anything.
You know what, guys? A lot of times life takes crazy twists, and what starts out as a negative can turn out to be a positive. 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, took care of it. I'm fine now. But during that process, until we got the results back, I didn't know how advanced it was. So my first thought was, will my kids know how to take care of my wife? So at that point in time, we started getting paperwork together with a what-if state of mind. Not a negative, morbid state of mind, but will my kids know how to take care of their mother as life advances? And I wanted that peace of mind if something would have happened to me. So we started putting the work together at that time. And at that time, Paul was really young, like 40.
Right.
But we started putting paperwork together so the kids would know how to handle
Well, but
her
maybe,
situation.
maybe that's it. Maybe our generation will actually accept this much more than our parents' generation, because I don't think the information was there. They don't have the experience the way we have. There weren't the resources of a company like Cypress, as an example, that my parents had when they were caring for their elder parents.
Yep.
You know, and also part of the reason why we are living longer is because we know so much more. Information is power. And all you have to do is watch Mad Men. Anybody a fan of Mad Men?
Oh, come on.
You see the cigarette smoking, you see the drinks at lunchtime. I mean, we don't do that today. We know better. And you know what? Our parents' generation, the ones before, didn't live that long.
That's a good point, yeah.
Because they didn't take care of themselves. We take care of ourselves. We do a better job of that. And as a result of that, we need to make sure that our wishes are memorialized. And while our parents are still on this earth, their wishes are memorialized. And as I shared earlier, our children's wishes are memorialized, so that if, God forbid, something were to happen, we would know what they want.
So, Ron, I have to tell you, with your mom 80, living up in Las Vegas, the last trip I took with my mom was to Las Vegas, and she was 82 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
She was upset because she couldn't find penny slot machines. I said, Mom, when's the last time you were in Vegas? She goes, okay, nickel.
Can't find nickels either.
No, they have pennies there, but you got to put like 300 in.
And I'll bet your mom looks for it, right?
She does. I think that's one of the reasons she doesn't want to leave.
That's one of the reasons why she doesn't leave. All right, well, we're going to have to take a break. We're done our 3 segments. We got one more left, guys. Looking forward to coming back to completing that. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We'll be right back.
Serving clients in the Valley since 1974, the estate planning lawyers at Knoll Miller and Aronofsky believe that integrity and high levels of client satisfaction are the keys to success. Whether they're helping you with a simple will or developing advanced estate planning techniques, you'll always get the highest quality legal services. Call 480-345-0444. That's 480-345-0444 or on the web at aboutestateplanning.com. Estate planning. What does this mean to you? You have to have a plan, you have to keep the plan up to date, and you have to get this right. Jim Knoll-Miller is a certified tax specialist under the State Bar of Arizona, offering advanced estate planning services for everyone's needs, from modest estates to very large estates. Call today, 480-345-0444. That's 480-345-0444, or visit aboutestateplanning.com.
If you're like most businesses, your response to computer needs is reactionary. Something goes wrong and you call someone to fix it. TeamLogic IT has a better way. It's called System Watch. Managed IT Services. System Watch monitors 24/7, performs remote diagnostics, identifies risks, schedules scans for virus and spyware, plus generates reports that keep you up to date.
I am Alan Zell of Zell Commercial Real Estate Services, a commercial real estate company. It is imperative that our computer network runs smoothly. Since engaging TeamLogic IT, we have a stable network as TeamLogic IT has become our source to avoid and eliminate any technology challenges.
So while you're busy running your business, TeamLogic will be busy running your computer systems. For a limited time, TeamLogic is offering a free system assessment, including a 2-week free trial of System Watch. TeamLogic IT, taking the worry out of your technology. 602-254-5558 or go to tryteamlogic.com.
With your pick 2 from Paradise Bakery and Cafe, you can try the new barbecue chicken flatbread sandwiches and have your strawberry poppy seed salad too. Visit Paradise Bakery and Cafe today.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Roth, and you've been listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. And if you've missed this show today, you can catch us always up on the internet. Go to cypresshomecare.com, push on the radio button up on the top left, and you can catch the previous 3 segments and many, many more. If you're just tuning in, I've got some great radio personalities here in my studio, and I've got, just to my right, I got Dave Pratt, the Morning Mirror. I've got Bill Strauss from Strauss's Place, and I've got Ron Cohen from KFNN Money Radio. And we've been talking about aging adults, and we've been specifically talking about planning and sitting down and having that conversation. And it was interesting, at the break we were talking about some of the challenges that we've all dealt with our parents, with loneliness. And loneliness is not an easy thing. And I remember my mother telling me how lonely it is to be alone. And, you know, for us as adult children, we don't want that to happen. We want them to be enjoying life. We don't want them to be lonely. And there are resources out there, and some people can go into communities, into assisted living communities. And I know Ron gave us some examples of his mother's sibling that, you know, is really great on the front of being extroverted and vibrant and loving that social network that assisted or independent living has, and some don't. And one of the great things about companies like Cypress Home Care and other home care agencies out there is that we can bring people in. But it's important to have that conversation and sit down and know that this is what your loved one wants. And we also delved into the advanced directive area, and certainly knowing that if one of our loved ones were to get mentally or physically incapacitated, what their wishes are. And it's so important to memorialize those and get those down in writing. And I wanted to just take this opportunity, because I've got some rock stars in here in the radio world, to really ask for some advice from you guys. I've been running this show now for 7 months, and as you guys know, this is a show called Health Futures. What a great name for a show that's on Money Radio, because we want to make sure that we are healthier and happier and we can live a long life. And how do we do that? I've had some great guests on the show. I've had physicians on the show. I've had professionals on the show. I've had research doctors on the show. I've got a sleep doctor that's slated to come on in August. So I'm just looking to you guys. I mean, advice, counsel, what are you guys thinking?
Well, I can tell you this. You're sitting in front of 3 radio veterans that have, 80 years between us, and you're comfortable. You've been in that air chair for 7 months, and you're completely at ease. You have Ron Cohen here, who's an owner of radio stations and owns the station that you're doing a show on. You're obviously very comfortable. You have Bill Strauss here, and I don't want to embarrass the guy, but I've been a fan forever. Not only am I a friend, I was probably the most loyal Strauss's Place listener of all time, because I'm a late-night guy, and there's not a show that I don't remember. And then you have,
And you got Dave Pratt, which was the 25 years ago, was the first guy that gave this radio station any publicity whatsoever. Because
and what was that?
Because the first week we were on the air, I had a number of people tell me that they heard Dave Pratt mention it on his show, which was #1 rated in the Valley back then, of course. And supposedly he expressed some doubt that a financial radio station would make it in the Valley.
Because I don't have any money. So.
But I thanked him for mentioning us, because that's typically taboo. You don't talk about another radio station on another radio station.
And he gave you some time. He gave you air.
Well, I got to tell you, I have never met Ron face-to-face before today. I knew of him. It's an accomplishment to have a radio station survive through a number of decades. I think that every radio station that I ever worked for has either folded up or been under 4 or 5 different managements and ownerships since I worked there. And KFNN has been around for, how old is it?
25 years we hit in December.
Congratulations.
I'm going to guess that there aren't more than a handful, and I'm not kidding, a handful of stations in the country that have that kind of longevity.
And what's interesting is, as I've learned about the station, because I've advertised on the station and I have the show on the station, is that you got people listening to this show in both spectrums of bull markets as well as bear markets, because they want to know what's happening with their money. And the sweet spot of people are right in the same spot that we are in as it relates to aging adults and trying to find solutions not only for ourselves but our loved ones.
Well, that's why the show's on the station, because when you talk about money and the station as Money Radio, it's not just about how to make money. It's really how to be a smart consumer. It's really about your lifestyle. And, of course, we need to get younger people engaged in a conversation like this, not only with your show, but with the station in general. But the reality is that we're appealing to us as baby boomers and our parents. And so these topics regarding home care are very relevant. And in fact, Dave mentioned and Bill mentioned the longevity of this station. If you looked at this station as a senior citizen, we should really try to find home care for this station as well.
You know what I love, Ron, honestly, and I want to give you credit for this, is the local programming. I enjoy syndicated programming, and I have some national hosts that I enjoy listening to, but I love the local programming, and this gets back to your show, Bob, because with Cypress, if I'm driving around, if I'm traveling down Indian School and I have an aging parent, I know that not only can I listen to your show, I can contact you.
Right.
I'll call Cypress, and I can get you on the phone. The guy that I'm listening to, who I get to know through storytelling, I can actually have a relationship with. And I think there's a lot of trust still on the local level with radio. I hope there is, because to me, that's radio magic. So if somebody hears you, Bob, talk about your life and who you are away from your business, especially with such an emotional category as home care, they'll find trust in you to take care of their loved ones. And to me, that's where the magic is of local radio. So, Ron, I give you credit for the local programming. That's what I really enjoy. Syndicated programming is good, too, but I love the local shows.
I used to sell radio, and I would tell my clients that there's no other medium that follows you through every part of your day, from going to the bathroom in the morning, to reading the paper, to getting in your car, to making love in the evening. There is no medium that follows you through your life. And I used to ask my clients, prospective clients, name your favorite TV channel. And they would laugh. I'd say, name your favorite radio station. They would name a radio station. They would name a show. There's a personal element to radio that doesn't exist even today with any other medium. And I echo what Dave said. I salute local programming. Unfortunately, radio's different now than I remember it. And that local centricism that used to make radio it's vanishing. So
except for a KFN.
But what a great medium for you.
Right.
The most personal medium to talk about maybe one of the most personal topics.
It also gives us an opportunity as a small player in the market to be something bigger, because the larger corporate-owned stations don't pay attention to local community, and I'm here still able to do that, fortunately. And hopefully with Bob's companies like Bob, I'll be here for some time to come.
And Bob and Ron, thank you both for having me. And Bill, you're my buddy. You know that. It's great to see you.
I would do this foursome again anytime, golf course or radio station.
Well, I got to tell you, thank you guys. I'm in awe of you, and I really appreciate you joining me on today's show. Have a great weekend. You've been listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit CypressHomeCare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Market Wrap with Mo Ansari is your daily source for financial news and analysis. With over 30 years of trading experience, Mo shares his thoughts on the markets, answers your financial questions, and features guest experts from around the world covering a variety of investment topics. Visit MarketWrapWithMo.com for more info about the show and listen to Market Wrap with Mo Ansari.
Weekdays at 5 p.m. on Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
More money talk coming up on
Money Radio 1510
and 99.3 FM. But now, a check on the news.
KFNN Mesa Phoenix and K257CD Phoenix. What's even more important than your finances? Your health. Check out our new show, Dr. Talk, Saturday afternoons at 1 on Money Radio. Dow is down 129 points, S&P down 10, the NASDAQ down 24. ExxonMobil might be making a huge Texas expansion. Arizona cities get ranked for business, and continued heat in the valley. Those stories and traffic right after NBC News at 1 o'clock.